when a person's home, his father's home, his parents are home, this is where they feel like, this is where they feel comfortable, and this is where they feel at home, and this is where they feel that this is their place, and they have a feeling of belonging, and they know who they are, and they know what they are, and they know who is there for them. So the Rebbe did that for us in 770 on a regular daily basis, not from time to time.
I'm Yossi Kamen. Welcome to Among Chassidim by Der Herr, an ongoing farbrengen about life as a chassid, our vibrant connection with the Rebbe, and inspired living shaped by the way he teaches us each and every day. Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Scharf, how are you?
Aleichem HaShalom, Yossi, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, doing well. Okay, so let's get right to it. So I know you in a different capacity that Baruch Hashem, I guess I'm a Talmud of yours in Yeshiva. Definitely learned more than one thing. So definitely legally can sagen in the Talmud. But before that, I obviously knew, right, like the rest of Lubavitch, who you were, because I was alive. I don't know if I was around, but anyone that was around, Tafshanun and Aleph and Beis, etc., knows the Scharfs, because right there by the Rebbe, 770. And recently, Jem did a very nice video about it a few years ago. But I don't know. Actually, in the Der Herr magazine, we've been featuring this whole year in the Leben mit den Rebben column, Tafshanun, and now we're moving on to Nun Aleph, starting Tishrei. And there's actually just right now, more than once, the Scharfs have been featured in that column, just because it's discussing what happened those years. There's a picture of your brother Shalomke's Upshernish by dollars, right? And just now, and I think it's in Elle magazine, there's a picture of the three boys, your brother, your two brothers by the Rebbe. Anyway, so I guess we could start off to just talk about how that happened, what happened, and take us through that very special yachas that for some reason that we probably don't understand, you were zeicha to have, and you still have, with the Rebbe.
I think at this point we could say it's almost b'fchinas kvadosh b'rabim, but for me it's not b'fchinas dosh b'rabim, because it's a shtickle part of life, maybe a very ikerdike part of life. How did it start? It started from the Rebbe. Now, maybe it's not all the way in the beginning, but it's just something that I didn't, I for sure didn't remember, and I didn't see until just mamish a few days ago, maybe a week or two ago. And my brother sent me a little clip. In those years when the Rebbe would give out dollars after Ma'ariv, which became with the time even more, but it became almost common that the Rebbe would give out dollars after Ma'ariv, sometimes with the Sicha. If it was a Sicha, there was for sure dollars after the Sicha. But sometimes the Rebbe would give out dollars without a Sicha. And I always knew, because I remember that we were always the first ones, or almost always the first ones to get the dollar. We were the first ones on the line. The Rebbe gave us a dollar, then the Rebbe would give Chadakov a dollar, and Jimmy Garari a dollar, or maybe I have to say Reb Zalman Garari a dollar. And then whatever, the line would go weiter. Whatever, I just figured that I pushed myself there, which is probably the way it was. But I just saw something which for me was a very, it was very special to see it, even though I didn't remember it at all. And I don't remember it, I just saw it in the clip. I think it was Vav Kislev Tafshin Nun. the Rebbe came down to give dollars. I think the Rebbe had said a sicha, and then the Rebbe went down to give dollars, and they brought down the actual shtender that the Rebbe used for the sicha, for the Rebbe to give out dollars. The truth is, I'll be honest, I didn't watch the whole video. I just see them bringing down the second shtender, which the Rebbe usually used for the sicha. So that's why I'm assuming the Rebbe said a sicha that night. We could check it out later. And we hadn't come. Maybe I didn't know the Rebbe was going to give out dollars, so we were just like standing in the regular place by davening, or right off, like in front of the shtender of the Chazan. And the Rebbe stood to give out dollars, and we weren't on the line. So the Rebbe turns around to find us. We were right behind the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gave us $1. The Rebbe gave my brother $1. The Rebbe gave my brothers $1. The Rebbe gave me $1. And then the Rebbe turns back around to give everyone else $1. So how do I say it? I felt a little, this is the Rebbe, the way the Rebbe wanted it to be. So really, that is what happened. Really, in a certain sense, not in a certain sense, completely. It wasn't like a planned thing that we're going to stand by the Rebbe. It wasn't a thing in those days that a person who was a Yosem stood near the Rebbe to say Kaddish. It wasn't the way it was. Afterwards, there were a few Yesayimim, and the Rebbe didn't, not much yachas from the Rebbe towards them, whatever. By Shagalov, it was like very boilet. I don't know if maybe you're going to cut this out, but Shagalov was like mamish boilet, that the Rebbe didn't pay much attention. And by Avrumi Shapiro, it was a little bit, The exception was actually in Tavshin and Beis, was the Pines. The few times before Chav Zayin Adar that they came, they got unbelievable kiruvim. I don't remember if it was once, for sure once, maybe even twice, when they were by a farbrengen. The Rebbe actually gave them, so I remember, the Rebbe actually gave them, in the middle of the farbrengen, from the Becher. The Rebbe gave them l'chaim. And it was. Then also the father was sitting behind that where the Zkenim would sit, and the Rebbe gave also to him from the Rebbe's Becher to say l'chaim, wine from the Becher. But al kopanim, the Poyel Mamish, the Rebbe wanted us to be there.
Can you start from the beginning?
The beginning, Mamish. The first thing that I remember very specifically myself.
So what happened?
What happened was that in the beginning of Tishrei of Tavshin Nun, that's Ches Tishrei Tavshin Nun, my father passed away. It was on the Shabbos. The Levaya was on Sunday, Tes Tishrei, which is obviously Erev Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, I went to 770, but there was we stood all the way in the back. There was nothing that I know about, nothing that I saw. I heard things, but I don't know about them as a fact. The first thing that I could remember specifically clearly, because definitely already between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, a few times we stood near the Rebbe's Bima, not necessarily all the way where we would stand afterwards for the next 2.5 years, but we definitely stood there. And I remember being there, and I even have some pictures of that time. But I think the Rebbe gave out dollars every night between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, Tavshin Nun. And I don't remember which night, but one of those nights, the Rebbe gave me $1. Like after davening, the Rebbe gave out, after Ma'ariv, the Rebbe gave out dollars, and I went to get $1. And the Rebbe gave me $1. And the Rebbe looked at me when the Rebbe gave me $1, which was always the way it was. But the Rebbe gave a shmeichel, the Rebbe gave a smile that was, one of those very, very special smiles that the Rebbe would give. And I remember I was not even 8 years old. First of all, I remember it very clearly, but I remember at the time it lit something inside of me. It did something to me. It lifted me up. I remember we came home then. My mother wasn't in shul for that davening. My mother, I should say, Aleha Hashalim. and
Your mother just passed away.
Yeah, my mother passed away on Tes Siva. That's about 2.5 months ago. So I remember going home. David Herzl had taken us then to 770. David Herzl is a cousin of my father. And I remember going home and telling my mother about
Herzl, he was the teacher?
He was a teacher. He could be still a teacher. I don't know what he does now. But he was a teacher in Litera for many, many years.
Yeah, he was my teacher. Yeah, okay.
Oh, he was your teacher also. Okay. He was a Yerushalmi. He was a cousin of my father. Not a first cousin, but like second cousin or something like that.
Your father is from Yerushalayim.
My father is from Yerushalayim. So I remember like coming home and telling, I mean, it wasn't the first time I went by the Rebbe. I had many
I was going to ask, were you by the Rebbe a lot before this?
Yeah, I would hang out, not tons, not anywhere. If I would compare it to after Tafshin Nun, it would be almost zero. But we went to Dollars, we went to the Rebbe. I remember being by the farbrengen every Shabbos with my father. I would stand next to him at first, and then I stood. I went to the kids' place when I got a little older. Maybe a little older means like 6, So then I already went to, I was ready to go away from standing near my father. If I stood near my father, I mean, those years, I was like, it was my father stood mamish b'seich ami, between the whole squish of 770, and he didn't usually hold me. So I was between the chassidim mamish, verschlupt and verquetscht. He would pick me up by the singing.
Where's the kids' place? By the Rebbe?
The kids' place is on top of the Rebbe's bima, on the Rebbe's, on the floor, on the Rebbe's left is where I used to sit. Sometimes I used to sit from Shabbos. Some people would sit on the right. Eventually, most people didn't really sit on the right. That lasted for a while until we said there's a certain individual, which we're not going to name right now, who stood a little bit behind Rabbi Chadakov. That's very near the children's place, because Rabbi Chadakov had a chair
on the Rebbe's
also
left.
On the Rebbe's left. And this individual had a way of commanding sometimes. He would lose it, and sometimes in an extreme way, even relative to 770. And I don't remember all the pratim, but one time something happened, not with me directly, just with someone else, but I was too close to him. So I told my father, I'm not going back there. And I went back to standing near my father. I remember being Friday nights by davening by the Rebbe. Whatever. I mean, obviously rallies like Be'ema parades, dollars. I mean, we were there. I have $1 from Yud Aleph Nisan Mem Vov. That's the first Sunday dollars that the Rebbe gave out dollars. So I don't remember getting the $1, but I know I was there because I have the $1. I mean, we went by Shalom kids. Our Brisen were actually upstairs. The 3 boys, the Brisen were upstairs in 770. That was the Seder. I guess that was the Seder. I don't think it was something unique that only my parents did. The Bris itself, not the Seudas HaBris, was upstairs in 770. So by Shalom Kiz's Bris, he was born Yud Dalet Cheshbon, so 8 days later, make the Cheshbon. It was on a Sunday. I guess he was born on a Sunday, so it was on a Sunday. And the Rebbe gave $1 because it was on a Sunday. So right after the Bris, which was in the Zal upstairs, that's where the Bris was, the actual Bris. So right after the Bris, we went to get $1 from the Rebbe. And Abi, yeah.
Your father, could you tell me a little bit? I know that your father was very involved with Me Yehudi. I just recently came out a video of him giving a speech at 770. I don't know if you saw it, about Me Yehudi. Was that like that was like a passion project? What was that?
Yeah, it was. He came as a bacher.
He had a job, right?
He had a job. No, it wasn't his parnas.
Mm-hmm.
He came. It's not what I heard from him, because it's from what I heard from others. He came Tavshan Lamed Daled to the Rebbe. Kvutza Lamed Daled, that means Pesach Lamed Daled is when he came. And it was the Tkuf that the Rebbe spoke very, very strongly about Mehu Yehudi and Shlema Sa'aretz. Shlema Sa'aretz became much stronger, I think, a little bit later. And he got very taken by it, and he wanted to do something about it. So he got involved, and he had a very big chush in writing, and he also had a chush sometimes in talking to people. So he would write articles, and he would speak to Chavei Knesset. And I remember he brought one of the Chavei Knesset to our house, Professor Avner Chai Shaki.
Chassid.
Yeah, big chassid. I mean, Taka, he was proud.
You're saying
quite unique.
your father's the one that connected him to the Rebbe. You're saying, is that what you're saying?
I don't know if my father's the one who connected him to the Rebbe, even though he did once introduce him to the Rebbe by $1. I'm not sure if it started with my father. I don't know, and I don't really have anyone to ask. But
because Chavei Knesset Shaki was a fire dicke chassid, I would say.
Yeah, he was a fire dicke chassid, and he fought for the Rebbe against everyone else. I mean, he wasn't he didn't get any popularity for being connected to the Rebbe. So yeah, I mean, I was always I mean, the Rebbe was our whole life was the Rebbe. The house was we always spoke about the Rebbe. It was always everything revolved around the Rebbe, what the Rebbe said and what the Rebbe did, and this was
and
both
also,
my parents were very very into it.
So I want to ask you about your mother also. I understand your mother's Mashpia, Blumenfeld, and I understand there's a lot of kiruvim from the Rebbe to her father. And grandfather?
No,
her father.
No,
her father.
No, her father.
So, what was that about? I mean, I know he was a Rav in Brazil.
It's hard to know. I'm not sure what. I know that he lived in Brazil. He didn't live in Brazil to be a Rav, but eventually became the Rav of Rio de Janeiro. Apparently, it was an influential position, and I think the Rebbe did a lot of things through him.
Was he a Lubavitcher?
He was a Lubavitcher. I mean, he became a Lubavitcher.
Okay.
I don't even know. I don't think he had a beard when he got married. He was a Torah Badas Bacher.
Oh, he's American.
I mean, he was not American, but he eventually landed in America. I think he was an Eretz Yisrael originally.
Okay. I
think. But yeah, he became a Lubavitcher Chassid. He married my grandmother was a Lubavitcher from the beginning. My grandmother was a few generations in Lubavitch. But he had some kiruvim from the Rebbe. He had many letters from the Rebbe. I don't know much pratim about that. That's the truth. And my mother also had, she had a longer yechidus as a girl by the Rebbe. And I don't know all the pratim at this point because I don't remember everything. But I know that the Rebbe had told Chadakov to keep out an eye on my mother. And that, whenever my mother needs something, she should go to Chadakov.
But she was learning in Besrivka.
And she was learning in Besrivka. This is in the Lamed Hey, Lamed Vav, and that, in that, around that time. Bechlal, she was obsessed with the Rebbe in very simple words, in every way, all the way from the first time she saw the Rebbe. So yeah, but back to this time that the Rebbe gave the $1 in Tafshin Nun. It wasn't the first time the Rebbe looked at me. It wasn't the first time that I looked at the Rebbe, but it was very different. And the Rebbe's reaction was very different. And the Rebbe, it was from that moment that the Rebbe Poshet lifted me up and lifted up my whole family. In a very practical, tangible way. Sukkis Tavshin Nun, I would say, is like the big turning point, if it has to be defined that way. After davening, we were there for the davening.
And Yom Tov.
On Yom Tov, the first night of Sukkis is exactly a week after Chassidishe, after my father passed away. It was also on a Friday night, obviously. And after davening, we said Kaddish, and then the Rebbe would say a Sicha, was the Simchas Beis HaShe'eva Sichos that the Rebbe said every night of Sukkot. And on Yom Tiv, it could be Tavshinun was the first time, it could be not. So I can't know for sure. But definitely then they extended, because they can't use a microphone on Shabbos and Yom Tiv, they extended the back of the Rebbe's bimah. It should go more towards Ma'ariv, more towards the back of the shul, not all the way back, but like a good few feet more in. So the Rebbe should be more, when the Rebbe says the Sikha, the Rebbe should be more in the crowd. So that was like an extension to the bimah. And the Rebbe went to say the Sikha, and they were singing a niggin, probably with some achta. And we, although by davening, we were actually closer to the Rebbe's bimah, but then...
So you already started davening next to the Rebbe right away?
Yeah. I don't know how that happened, but we were davening.
You're saying Kaddish, whatever.
We were saying Kaddish. I don't know if we were all the way in that corner or near the corner. I don't know. Maybe it was just with the regular kids. I don't even remember. It could be I was just standing in the kids' place. But either way, once the Rebbe was saying the Sikha, everyone would come into the Ches where the kids would stand. And
where is that?
That's right in front of the Aron Kodesh. That whole area in front of the Aron Kodesh. Because everyone surged forward to hear the Rebbe Sikha. It's a shtickle Ches, yeah, because it was closed. It was closed on the one end of the Aron Kodesh. There was a table. Then there was a table going all the way down till the wall.
It was always like that? Only when the Rebbe davened to the Amud, I thought.
Eventually it was always. For sure from Tavshinun it was always. And then you had the wall. Is the whatever. Either way, that's that's what we called it. I don't know if it's really the pale. It was closed off. I mean, I remember it not being closed off in the Mems, but the pale in these years it was closed off. At least I think so. Maybe it started in an Aleph. For sure, Yom Tov it was closed off. Either way, I was already all the way pushed back, like past Aron Kodesh or by the Aron Kodesh. I mean, this obviously is not taking more than 120 seconds, but Lepayel, I actually saw, I looked up and I saw that Label Groner was running down the steps of the bimah, and there was like a clearing that opened. In 770, people didn't make room for people. That wasn't one of the things that they did. So I didn't think it was anything to do with me, but within a second, I knew it was for me, obviously, but it was a little whatever. And then I was with my brother, Shmuel Chaim. The Rebbe had obviously wanted us to come over. And we came up the bimah and we sat down on the floor right next to the Rebbe's feet, next to the stender. The Rebbe looked down at us. And the Rebbe was mo'eded very strong. The Rebbe encouraged, the Rebbe made with his hand. That's how he used to say it. The Rebbe made with his hand, gemacht mit die Hand. A few times, the Rebbe looked at us very strong. And that was it. From then, we were always there. And, if we missed or we weren't there, then the Rebbe would look around to see where we were. So we really got the message that we need to be there. Whether it was the farbrengen, my mother figured that the night of Leil Simchas Torah by the farbrengen, it's late at night, we don't have to go. That's Tavshinun. But the Rebbe looked where we were. So that was the last farbrengen that we missed. The Rebbe, Shabbos mevarchim Tavshinun, mevarchim Cheshvan. That's Shabbos Bereishis Tavshinun. That's the first Shabbos mevarchim. My mother wasn't going to schlep little kids to Shabbos mevarchim Tilim. We're going to come for 10:30 for Shachris. But the Rebbe, when we got there, we were told that the Rebbe was looking for us. It means the Rebbe expected us to be there. Just recently, my brother asked my mother, how did you do it? The Poel Mamish, the only reason why it was able to work, the only reason why it happened was because my mother schlepped us there every single day. Or at night, in the morning, we were in Yeshiva in Cheder. But every single night for Ma'ariv, sometimes it was hours, but the Rebbe went to the oil and we didn't know when the Rebbe was going to come back. By every farbrengen, anytime the Rebbe came to 770, we were there. So my brother asked her just recently, she was already not well, like, what was your thought process? I mean, you're a mother of little kids, a 3-year-old. I mean, everyone knows what happens in the house at night. You have to put the kids to bed, and you have little kids. It's not a parshat dezach to schlep the whole family out every single night. And the farbrengen is everything. Shabbos, Yom Tov. It's a very complicated Indian. So, like my brother asked, like, what were you thinking? Like, what was the process? What was the, So my mother said that I didn't think the Rebbe wanted, so that's it. So that was it was a very clear message from the Rebbe that the Rebbe wants us there. But this is only from, like what I mentioned, when we were not there. But maybe more in the strongest Eifen is from when we were there. The Rebbe would look at us a lot during davening, and the Rebbe would look at us to say Amen and Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba. And the Rebbe would say Amen, like in a way that the Rebbe would slowly mouth the Amen, because we couldn't hear the Rebbe saying Amen, we were down, and especially a lot. And my younger brother Shalom, who's mamish 3 years old, and there was just a tremendous, it was a tremendous attention. Attention is not the best word, but it was a tremendous attention that the Rebbe gave us, and the Rebbe made us feel that we belong, that we are part of the Rebbe's. We're part of. We have an identity. We have a foundation. We have a yesod. We mamish felt like we're the Rebbe's kinder in a very simple way, and that we have someone who's looking after us, and someone who's taking care of us, and someone who's paying attention to us, and someone who cares what's happening with us. And really, it's in a very gashmiistic sense, not a very ruchniistic sense, in a very, very gashmiistic sense. And it became like we knew that. I mean, versteht nicht, was der Rebbe is, but we knew that the Rebbe is the Rebbe, and that the Rebbe should do that for us. It was mind-boggling, but at the same time, very, very quickly, it became very, very natural. In other words, it didn't feel like this shouldn't be happening. This is the way it is. Maybe it's not so nice to say it, but I felt like the king of 770. I felt like, I could go where I want, I could do what I want, because the Rebbe is the. Sometimes, it also for sure expressed itself a little bit negatively, but that's what the Rebbe did. I'm only mentioning it because I want to bring out what the Rebbe did for us, and to what extent it impacted our psyche, our general feeling as just as people. A person needs a when a person's home, his father's home, his parents are home, this is where they feel like, this is where they feel comfortable, and this is where they feel at home, and this is where they feel that this is their place, and they have a feeling of belonging, and they know who they are, and they know what they are, and they know who is there for them. So the Rebbe did that for us in 770 on a regular daily basis, not from time to time.
When I actually found myself recently, have my kids in shul, and I wanted my young son to say Amen, so I found myself like tapping him on the shoulder and like mouthing to him, like Amen. Where do you think I got that from? I saw from the videos how the Rebbe's mechanech, you guys. I realized that's a way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, there's no question that it happened. It for sure happened sometimes that the Rebbe looked at us and tried to say Amen with us, and we didn't even realize that the Rebbe was looking at us. It's not a shaila, not a question.
Yeah.
The Rebbe would go like this, and then, the Rebbe would look, and, often the Rebbe would catch our attention, sometimes not. But we knew that the Rebbe was always looking at us.
And this was also by the farbrengens. Also, there was a seder, things that happened, no?
By the farbrengen, the Rebbe would give, by every farbrengen, the Rebbe would give a piece of cake to my brother Shalomke. It was usually either by the niggin before the first sikha. In those years, in Dovshinun and Aleph and Reis, the Rebbe would come in, they would start with the niggin. Rebbe would make Kiddush, they would start with the niggin. And then afterwards, the Rebbe would say the first sikha. So the Rebbe would give Shalomke a piece of cake either by the niggin before the first sikha, and sometimes by the niggin after the first sikha. But Shalomke was the one who got the piece of cake every week. If it was Yom Tiv, then it was a piece of challah by the farbrengen. If it was Pesach, it was a piece of matzah, because that's what the Rebbe had. On Yom Tiv, it was challah, and Achin Shel Pesach by the Mesudas Mashiach, it was challah. It was matzah, and we said l'chaim to the Rebbe, but that was regular. That was everyone. And then we would stand there by mincha. The Rebbe would daven mincha right there by the farbrengen place. They would put a stander there in front of the beam that was on the Rebbe's right. When the Rebbe would sit by the farbrengen, they would put a stander, and the Rebbe would go there to daven mincha. Kriyas HaTorah was right ahead of the Rebbe, like a few feet in front of the Rebbe.
And throughout this time, so also you went every Sunday dollars?
Time? Not every Sunday. So most Sundays we were in Cheder, but in the summer of Tavshinun, we went for every Sunday dollars, because there's no day camp on Sunday. So we'd go to Shachris, and then
in the summer.
Yeah, and then we would go to get $1 from the Rebbe. Or other times that there was no school. So L'moshel Yud Gimel Nisan, just it sticks out for specifically Yud Gimel Nisan Tavshinun. We was also on a Sunday, and there was obviously no Cheder started for Pesach. So now, when we would get Sunday dollars, so obviously you can't just go by getting $1. So after davening, we would go. They would lock the room after the Rebbe's shachris. They would lock the dollar room, what's called the magnet room. That room right when you walk into 770 in the main building. They would lock it until the Rebbe would come out to give out dollars, and then they would unlock it. So we were always in that room while it was locked, from after shachris till the Rebbe would come out. And that we're talking about Tavshinun. And so also this Yud Gimel Nisan Tavshinun. Gimel Nisan is the yahrzeit of the Tzemach Tzedek, and it's a few days after Yud Aleph Nisan. Yud Aleph Nisan was Friday in Tavshinun, so Thursday night and Friday. The Rebbe gave out a kuntres in the Rebbe's house, the Maimer Kishol Bin Chalamet Ches kuntres Yud Aleph Nisan Tavshinun. And this was Sunday, a few days, the day, that night was B'dikas Chometz. So the Rebbe came out to give out dollars, and we were obviously standing right there to get $1. And the Rebbe started speaking a sikha. Instead of giving out dollars, the Rebbe started speaking a sikha. It was a short sikha for a few minutes, but it was mamish as if the Rebbe was talking to us, the sikha, because we were standing right there. Look, the sikha afterwards, the thanked the people who gave brachas, b'chulu, b'kasher with the Aleph Nissen, and Rebbe mentioned the Kitzur about the Tzemach Tzedek. And I don't know why, but in Topshin and Aleph, we didn't go anymore on Sundays, even when there was no cheder. I'm not sure if there was a specific reason, or my mother just felt that it was not the way we should do it. I would go sometimes, even for sure Nun Beis, I would, after Yeshiva, after cheder was over, I would sometimes decide that I'm going on the line and getting $1, whatever. I would go upstairs over there. I had my ways, but in general, we didn't go on every Sunday for $1. Whenever the Rebbe would give out $1 after davening, we would go get $1. Obviously, when the Rebbe gave out a kuntras or a tanya, so then for sure we would go. And
so I saw that. So this whole thing of standing, was there anyone else? So the place where you stood was in between the Chazin's bimah and the Rebbe's bimah. Was there anyone else there, or was just you?
No, not usually. There? Regularly, there was no one else there.
So
yeah.
Go ahead. No, so what happened when you finished Kaddish? Because that was in Tishrei. That was an El. That's in this month.
I saw that you put it. I remember it a little bit differently, but
I remember.
But I remember that it was right after the Rebbe came into Shul. The truth is, I should look at the video because there's a video of it. Right after the Rebbe came into Shul for Ma'ariv, that's Matzoy Zayin Elul, would be the first davening that we weren't saying Kaddish.
So you weren't there for Mincha?
We were there for Mincha.
The last Kaddish.
But that was the last Kaddish. That Mincha, there was a rally, I think, for Camp Emunah finishing. And actually, we left a very rare thing. We left in middle, the Rebbe was still in 770, because we were making a farbrengen in my house, Bekesha with the Sima Kaddish that day, and it had to be done before Ma'ariv. I had actually gotten a bottle of Mashpia from the Rebbe on the Shabbos before that Thiyum.
You went up to get it?
I was up already, but I got a bottle. I can actually show you the bottle if you want. The whole story.
Does it say the story?
So the Rebbe would give out Mashpia for people who were making a farbrengen or some sort of event like that. The Rebbe didn't want it. There's a whole Sichen Mendalid about it, but they wanted it to be for farbrengens, really.
And the Seder was the Rebbe would pour.
So the Rebbe would open up the bottle, or sometimes the Rebbe would pour from the bottle into the becher, and then from the becher into the bottle. And I always used to like to watch the red, the wine going into the bottle of Mashpia. It had like this, nothing significant. It's just like what I used to get caught up as a kid. I mean, sometimes there was a lot of bottles, so it was already not so red anymore because the wine turned into Mashpia.
And then the person would announce what the event is.
So the Rebbe would then pour from the bottle into the person's cup to say L'chaim, and the Rebbe would close the bottle. This is all the way till Nun Beis, and give the bottle to the person who was taking the thing, and then the person would announce the 770 why he's doing the farbrengen. They would always invite the Rebbe. The Rebbe Schlitt is eingeladen, and the ganze Olam is eingeladen. Man leidt an der Rebbe Schlitt, So I had prepared a few lines to say, in Yiddish. I don't remember now anything of what it was. What were the words? Even though I repeated it and I knew it by heart, backwards and forwards. The Peyel, the Rebbe gave me. The Rebbe turned around. I was standing right here. Most of the people get it from over the table. I was standing on the Rebbe's right. So the Rebbe turned around. The Rebbe gave me some l'chaim, some mashk in the cup. I said l'chaim. And the Rebbe gave me a piece of cake because I was a little kid and mashk is a little sharp. And the Rebbe then gave me the bottle. And I was supposed to make the announcement Now, I wasn't very eager to make the announcement, and it's a very busy time. The Rebbe is giving out mashke, and people are announcing. It was not a very mesudik situation. So I figured that I could get away without saying anything. So I went to the side, around Label Groner, to stood on the other side of Label Groner, because Label was there to help with the bottles, and I figured I'll be good. The Rebbe stopped giving out the mashke, and the Rebbe turned around, and the Rebbe waited for me to make the announcement. So obviously, at that point, I said my announcement, and then when I finished, the Rebbe went back and continued with Chanukas HaMashke. Maybe it was already almost over, and that was a very big thing.
Among Chassidim is brought to you by Chassidishe Der Her. We live in a chaotic world, a world where for us Chassidim, as a seinu, lei ra'inu, we do not have the ability to hear and see the Rebbe on a daily basis. Yet we know that the Rebbe is very much with us, and the Chassidus Chabad is alive and thriving more than ever before. One needs to only tap into it. Chassidishe Der Her provides you and your family with the tools necessary to tap into all of this. Whether it's the monthly magazine, the way it all began, whether it's Der Her books, Der Her online content, and so much more. Men, women, and children throughout the world benefit and use these tools on a daily basis. Whether it's children enjoying the children's magazine that comes along with the regular Der Her, or enjoying the children's podcast, whether it's Bachrim in Yeshivas receiving the Der Her, whether it's girls in high schools enjoying their hair club in their local high school. People all over the world and from all walks of life enjoy and utilize these tools and take advantage of it. If you're not already subscribed to the Her Monthly Magazine, do so today at derher.org. That's derher.org. Der Her is a dynamic organization which is committed to continue providing these tools, grow on a constant basis, and do all that we can to help this effort. Baruch Hashem, it takes a lot of resources and finances to make this all happen. You can be part of Der Her through your financial support as well, through visiting our website derher.org, or through contacting us to setting up a meeting. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
In a little bit more than a year later, before my father's second yahrzeit, I again took a bottle for a farbrengen. And this time, I don't know what we think. The first time, someone suggested that we should all go to the Rebbe. So the Rebbe poured all three of us a little bit of mashke in a cup. And the Rebbe gave each one of us a piece of cake. And the Rebbe closed the bottle and gave me the bottle. He said l'chaim to the Rebbe. We went back. And I was going to pull the same shtick. And I did. This time actually successfully. The Rebbe didn't turn around and tell me to stop everyone for me to give my announcement. Mm-hmm. I have my teres why, but that's what happened to Pale. The Pashtus was the erste Mal, der Rebbe hat in Hand. Der zweite Mal darfst du schön tun, was du darfst tun. Du kannst nicht allemal halten in Hand. That would not be, But anyways, that's what happened to Pale. But either way, back to Elul Tovshin Nun. So there was a farbrengen. So the Sima Kaddish. So there was a farbrengen. So we left 770 when the Rebbe was still saying the siches to the camp. And either way, we came back from Ma'ariv. And from what I remember, it was after the Rebbe was already in the shul. I should really look it up in the video. A certain individual came to tell us that we should come out of that little corner, because I don't think he explained anything, but I understood. We finished saying Kaddish, so you're done. It was a very big.
You're already there. This guy pulled you out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah. Even if it was before the Rebbe came in, we were already there. I think the Rebbe came in, but I could check. We could check later. the feeling was a terrible feeling, because what does that mean for everything about me and everything about? I mean, it wasn't just like a technical thing. You're standing there means that you have a place, not that you have a physical place. It means that you belong. If you're not there anymore, then you're on your own. It was very short in the end, but it was very frightening. I remember at the time, it was very, very frightening. I was with my two brothers, and I was like trying to take whatever. It was a very frightening few moments. And the Rebbe turned around, and the Rebbe was looking. The Rebbe was looking, and if I remember correctly, the Rebbe looked all the way around. So he right away told us, it was very clear that we have to go back.
The Gzeira was bottle.
The Gzeira never happened. I mean, I'm assuming that Pliny ben Pliny said to this Pliny ben Pliny, after what's it called? You should tell them.
Time to make a seder with this.
Yeah. There was definitely people who wanted it to be over. There was very clear. I heard enough. This doesn't have to necessarily be published, but I remember in Nun Beis already, one of the farbrengens in Tavshin Nun Beis. Things were very crazy at the time, but whatever. I'm not going through all the pratim, but there were mamish being, I guess, because for the Rebbe not to have more space, they mamish at some point, like the mamish, I think they shut down the whole kids' side at all, even on the Rebbe's left. At least maybe by certain farbrengens. And either way, so they wanted, I don't know, I guess it was Shagalov's father, whatever. The Shagalov stood over there, was standing next to me by the farbrengen, where I stood by the farbrengen on the Rebbe's right. And one of the Vadei Mesader basically kicked them out and sent them flying. And someone was telling him, why are you doing this? So he said, I would even send away the Scharfs, but the Rebbe is not going to be happy, or something like that. In other words, there was not it was only Ruach Chachamim Neichehemenu. The Rebbe wanted it. It wasn't necessarily that everyone else around wanted it. Obviously, the Chassidim didn't have an issue with it, but people who had different positions.
Right.
But Lepeil, that was it. I mean, we saw Lepeil. The Rebbe continued to look at us, and the Rebbe continued to say Amen. There's no question that the first kufa after my father passed away, there was a much stronger, literally to pick you up and to elevate you and to uplift you. The Rebbe, the Rebbe really, could you say the word, invested in connecting to us and in lifting us up and in push it to make us feel that we're not by ourselves.
Something happened by Duchening, no?
Something happened by Duchening. I remember very little, very vague of it, because I didn't really know what was going on. Recently, a few years ago, my sister told me that she actually saw it from the Weibershul.
Right, because your sister was upstairs.
What happened? My sister was upstairs in the Weibershul, in the Eastern Parkway Weibershul. So she had a very direct view. She said that the Rebbe was Simchas Torah Tafshin, was Simchas Torah or Sukkis Tafshin Nun. I'm not sure which one. And by Birkas Koyanim, the Rebbe turned all the way around, and they say that the Rebbe was going to take us under the Rebbe's talis, but who knows? But then when Groner saw that, so that the Rebbe turned around. So he took us under his talis, and we talked, for a few years we went under his talis for Birkas Koyanim.
And during these years,
it's really hard to know. I know people said that. I remember people at the time said, "Mabash, the Rebbe was going to take you." Some people actually said you were under the Rebbe's talis. People thought that.
And the way I heard is that the Rebbe, maybe the Rebbe
So that's what my sister said.
Yeah,
that's what my sister said.
That's what I heard.
That's what my sister said. She thinks
the Rebbe looked and the Rebbe picked up his talis and then ran away.
Maybe the Rebbe was just being miramis.
Right, that someone else.
Either way, Lepoil Mamish, I was never under the Rebbe's talis.
Yeah.
But the Rebbe definitely made sure that we were under a talis. That's for sure. What could have been, what was we can speculate as much as we want. But a speculation is just that, a speculation.
Right.
But the Rebbe took care to make sure that we had a talis to be under. That was not...
And during those years, it's also by Shalomka's Abshanish, that was right in the first month?
Yeah, it was just a little bit after a month. The Ches Cheshvan was 1 month. This was Yud Dalet Cheshvan. It was on a Sunday.
So your mother came to Dallas with a scissor?
My mother came to Dalet with a scissor, and when we came by the Rebbe turned to label to get his scissors.
To get his own scissors?
Apparently, the Rebbe had already told Label to prepare his scissors, because the Rebbe was expecting him to have the scissors. He pulled it out.
He had in his pocket the scissors.
Yeah, an
so
orange.
She brought
a scissors, and she was giving the Rebbe the scissors.
But the Rebbe had his own.
The Rebbe had it already prepared. You can see it on the video, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. But what's the whole seder with Abshanish? It happens sometimes that people, I guess, like some, usually not Lubavitchers.
The Rebbe used to always, as far as I know, for many years, the Rebbe would always do the Abshanish.
The Rebbe would do it, but
no, not by dollars. This by Yeshidus. It was a seder.
Really?
Chassidim would bring their children to have Abshanish by the Rebbe. At some point, the Rebbe stopped it.
Mm-hmm.
I even heard a story that it could be Mevar, probably the Pratim, but that I think it was Avraham Shem Tiv's, the son that was going to have Abshanish after the Rebbe stopped it. So he wrote to the Rebbe that, although the Rebbe is not doing it anymore, maybe he wrote a Lashon al Derech, that he shouldn't be beshinui me'echov, shouldn't be different than his brothers. There shouldn't be like, my brothers did it, I didn't. So the Rebbe added the one word, hatimimim. He shouldn't be different than the rest of his brothers, the Tmimim. And just like all the other Tmimim are not going to have it, so he's also not going to have it.
Okay.
I heard from one of Mayor Harlig's children, I don't remember which one, maybe it was Mendy, told me that a few years ago I met him by Psachasan, and he said, I think, maybe I heard from maybe a different one, either way, that the Rebbe, that when it was his Abshernesh, so his father, they stood in Gan Eden Atachten for the Rebbe to cut the hair, and his father brought the grandfather, like Mayor Harlig's father.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew that then the Rebbe was going to do it.
Right.
And the Rebbe Taka did it.
It did happen. There's a picture by Kosher Bracha.
Yeah, so in the later years, some people did it.
I think if you figured it out and you did it.
Yeah, if you just did it, you did it. But my mother actually, I'm pretty sure my mother asked in advance. I don't know who she asked. But she definitely, it wasn't like, she didn't just arrive at Yovish. It was definitely, and we know that the Rebbe, we knew that the Rebbe knew that we're going. I remember B'shai, I remember the Pratim, but I remember that it was like, it was happening. It was prearranged that we're going to go.
How was the Rebbe Mesiachas to your sister? Because she wasn't there by the Tfilis, but
so my sister definitely, it was in a different oifen. But whenever it was by dollars, she would get special attention from the Rebbe. If she didn't come to dollars, the Rebbe asked about her. I remember one time, I think it's an Iyar, I didn't remember the date, I think someone found the video, so I think it's an Iyar Tavshin Nun Aleph. I went for dollars after Cheder on Sunday, and I went with Shmuel Chaim, and my mother wasn't going to go for dollars. She was together with Shalom Kan, my sister, outside, like by the driveway going to 770. So we went by dollars, and the Rebbe gave me $1. And then the Rebbe called me back, and the Rebbe asked me, "Where is your sister?" And I was so mivulval. I completely lost my composure. And I started saying, in Dreusen, and then I turned around and they decided that they're going to go get $1. So as I turned around, because I was like, so then they were coming in from the door into the Gan Eden, into the dollars room, into the magnet room from the hallway near the Zal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I said, they're right here. But I remember one time, I don't know the pratim, but I remember one time, from time to time we wrote letters to the Rebbe.
That was my next question I wanted to ask you was that I know that you wrote to the Rebbe and there's answers and things. I wanted to ask you about that.
So I don't remember what it was, and maybe I never knew it. Maybe it was just a private thing. But the poil, my sister had written to the Rebbe. Now, usually, the way it would work, we would give in the letter, and then, like, when there was an answer from the Rebbe, when Groner would come in with the Rebbe by davening, so he would give us the piece of paper with the answer written on it. Not the Rebbe's Ksaviyat Kodesh, but he would rewrite what the Rebbe would give the answer. And like whatever, that was always, even if it would be an answer to my mother, an answer to my sister, whatever, he would give it to me and I would give it to my mother. I wouldn't read it myself. I don't even know if I would be able to read the handwriting at that time. Either way, the Rebbe, so I remember one time we got home from davening, Ma'ariv, at night, and we got a phone call from Askiros. Groner called. You have to understand, if you get a phone call from Askiros, it was like earth-shattering, because it only means it's something from the Rebbe. It's nothing else. And the Rebbe, my sister had written something to the Rebbe, and there was an answer from the Rebbe for my sister. And the Rebbe wanted that my sister should come to 770 to get the answer. So I remember, my mother didn't know what to do, because what are you going to do? But she left us home, and she ran to the car. She drove to 770.
How old is my sister? Then?
Maybe 10. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Let's say 10. Let's say. I can't know exactly because I don't remember the date. Mm-hmm. But it's not older than 9 and not younger. Not older than 11 and not younger than 9. So whatever. And that's it. My sister went. She got her answer. She came back home. It could be. It's very likely that it wasn't so much that there was like a private answer that she had to get in her hand. I think it was for the yachas, for the what's the word in English for it? You know what I mean? It does something to you. The Rebbe called me to get the answer. You know what that means? That's like, Derech, you hear the stories of like the Rebbe did certain things because people started having doubts. Does the Rebbe really know me? Does the Rebbe really know who I am? Does the Rebbe really know what's going on with my life? And the Rebbe would do these,
like the story with Rabbi Mendel, that Rabbi Mendel used to say,
yes, exactly,
that doubted if the Rebbe knows who he's signing all the Chassidishe letters to, right? All the same thing. And Punk, that guy, went by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe asked,
Yes, Bakum in the brief.
Yes, Bakum in the brief. Did you get the letter? Yeah.
There's many stories like that. Exactly, that's an example. And like the subtle things that the Rebbe would do to, what was the point? The pashtus. Al-Pidas Tachten is to connect to you and to make sure that you feel that that there's a connection, that that. Yeah. So I think that the same thing was. I think that
I saw. There's a video of dollars of my in-laws. There's a few interesting things, but my in-laws lost a child, Tashin and Aleph, Baruch Nissen Telden, and afterwards by dollars, Leibel Groner tells the Rebbe that this is Rabbi and Mrs. Telden. So the Rebbe gives a dollar for at least Hanashama on his own. They didn't say it. It's for at least Hanashama. Just like that's a yachas, that type of thing.
A yachas. I heard that this is also a very. I thought it was very gezach that Anyway, so there was a bacher. All the pratim is not negay, but it's substantial. There was a bacher who with mamish. He learned in Manchester in the late Memtes, I think, and he was a big masmid, and he sat a whole day and learned. The Ikr Nigla. He would sit down in the shul downstairs and he would learn and learn and learn and learn. I think even he got harassed sometimes by Hanhola. Maybe he didn't learn it of Chassidishe or whatever it is. But he was very, very into the learning. And he was by the Rebbe for Pesach Tavshim Memtes. And he went by dollars. And the Rebbe gave him $1. Like, as the line is just like flowing. The Rebbe gave him $1. The Rebbe said, Fardi lernen. I don't think the Rebbe even gave him a $2. It was like, with $1, the Rebbe gave him $1. No one said anything. No one spoke. The Rebbe gave him $1. Fardi lernen. I know, basically, one of his friends noticed this, and they have like they have a few videos of the dollars. It's just like, not a pninim. Just like the dollars going. Like just everyone walking by dollars, not...
that's like
not
okay.
Not pninim. Not pninim.
You're not saying then, you're saying now. Oh, okay, fine.
I don't know, 10 years ago, let's say it was.
15
years ago or something. And he saw, like, the Rebbe gave him $1 and said, Fadam lernen. And he knew the Bacher from
then.
Like, he rewinded it. Maybe, like, I'm imagining, because I knew he was always learning. And he met him afterwards. And he said, like, did this happen? He said, yeah, for sure. He's like, no one wrote to the Rebbe about it. No one spoke to the Rebbe about it.
Did we get a name over here? Or no name?
I don't know. He's a shliach now. I think the name is I think Partush. Could be it's Partush. You could track him down. You could ask him. No, but the point is that this was what?
I think there's more than one. I have to figure out.
There is more than one. But we could find that. It's not so hard to find out. But it's a good story to put in the Derher,
Yeah.
There's a lot of aspects of the story that you could focus on. But
you're also a Mashpia of Bachrim, so this is an important story in your work for Bachrim.
It's an important story for us, and then it becomes important for the Bachrim. How did I hear? I heard. I wasn't there, but I heard that there was this discussion by one of the Kinus HaShluchim. How do you give over the Rebbe to your children, and how do you make what do you tell your children that they should be Chassidim? And that was the nusach of the conversation. So one of the Shluchim there said, "What do you tell yourself? What do you tell yourself?" And that's the answer to what you tell your children. In other words, if it's a problem, then the problem is in yourself. There's no problem in yourself. You'll figure out what to tell your children.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important to have these stories, and it's important to remember the reason why we know these stories, and the reason why we hear these stories, and the reason why the Rebbe in other words, the Rebbe says the moshel from the Bas Hayano. But it's very clear from the Rebbe that it's not only about by the Rebbe, it's always about the individual fully, but it's never only about the individual. It's always, I think, it's always about what the individual is going to do weiter with it. What the Rebbe wants it to be weiter, to affect another person and another person. What the Rebbe said, to giving $1. So it's tzedakah. That means the Rebbe gives you $1, which means that you give tzedakah. I mean, someone else is already impacted.
There's a story Zalman Jaffe about this. I think we had it on the podcast already.
What?
Someone mentioned it. I think Rabbi Shmulu. I think he asked the Rebbe, maybe Yassilu said it. He asked the Rebbe, why was it, like years into him being involved, he asked the Rebbe, like, what did I do to be zeicha to such kirov? And the Rebbe said, It's what you will do.
There's a sikha from Yud Beis Tammuz, Tafshin Yud. And the Rebbe speaks over there in the sikha about the idea of Hira in his kashrus from the concept of Makdish an Ever Shaneshama Tluya Bo. So the Rebbe speaks a whole arichus, but one of the things the Rebbe says in the sikha there,
so if you makdish part of a behemoth,
right? So if a person is going to, let's say I'm makdish the leg of the behemoth, so then it's only the leg or the value of the leg. But if a person says he's going to be makdish, let's say the heart of the behemoth, the life of the animal depends on the heart. So then it's not only the heart; it's the entire animal.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing is when you get to his kashos, the Rebbe says. The Rebbe speaks about it on the side of the chassid. So when the chassid writes to the Rebbe says, and you're asking for one specific inyan, whatever you're writing because you're asking, let's say, a bracha for something. So why are you writing to the Rebbe? The Rebbe says. Even you think you're only writing about one specific thing, but why are you writing to the Rebbe? What's the connection to write to the Rebbe about it? The reason you're writing to the Rebbe is because the Rebbe is the Rosh. So as soon as you're writing to the Rebbe, it's b'fchinas Ever Shaneshama Tluya Bo. You're recognizing that you are completely connected to the Rebbe in every aspect. Otherwise, why are you writing to the Rebbe? I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Then the Rebbe says, Mitzad the Rebbe. So the Rebbe says, when the Rebbe answers you, the Rebbe is not just answering your particular little detail. Or I don't think the Rebbe says little, maybe your particular specific prat that you're writing to the Rebbe about. When the Rebbe is answering you, the Rebbe is looking at your whole mitzias, and the Rebbe is answering and giving you koyach for everything else that you could do and that you could accomplish and that you could reach. And the Rebbe says, what is that? So there's nothing that the Rebbe does which is only for now. And that means that all of these nyonim and all of these stories is a hero for us to learn and to understand what is his kashrus to the Rebbe. In other words, first of all, that there is a his kashrus. I think that's the first hero. There is a his kashrus. What does it mean, a his kashrus? There is a connection. The Rebbe is connected to you, and you are connected to the Rebbe. If there's no connection, then there's no his kashrus. Then what am I doing here? The first thing we need to actually realize, we don't have to feel it. People like to speak a lot about feelings. Feelings are very iffy. They come, they go, they feel this way, they feel that way. We all know about feelings. Yeah, even to the people who are the closest to us, our feelings fluctuate. It's not about feelings. Feelings don't determine. It's about
define.
Fact. They don't define. Yeah, very good. It's a better word. It is. His kashrus is. The Rebbe is connected to each and every one of us. The Rebbe is negeya. It is negeya to the Rebbe every detail that happens in the life of every chassid. That is. The Rebbe does notice you. The Rebbe does realize what's happening with you, and does recognize what's going on by you, and cares about what's happening with you. That is. And the reason is very simple, because the Rebbe explains certain things such simple, basic words and inyanim that it's the Rebbe is the Rosh B'nai Yisrael. The Rebbe is the cup, and the cup is the mocker for all of the Ivarim. So the Rebbe is the cup, and the Rebbe is the head. We are the Ivarim. We are the feet. That means that there is not only a connection, there's a very deep connection. And that connection starts before you do anything, before you say anything, before you worked on anything. There's such a thing, that's not an emes statement. And it doesn't really encourage us, and as a side note, I don't think it encourages us to become having a shaykhis if we announce that we don't have a shaykhis. Now we have to strengthen our hiskashos. If we know that there is a yesoid, if we know that there is a hiskashos, now we could work on the hiskashos. We could develop the hiskashos. We could live with the hiskashos. We could make it that it permeates our whole life. And that's our job as Chassidim, to be mekusha to the Rebbe. But it's not to create a connection. Because there is a connection. There is a connection. And I think it's one of the reasons why the Rebbe says in the famous letter of Gimel Tammuz Tavshin Yud, the Rebbe says that Al kol echad ve'echad litkoya machshavtei bechezek, that this is something that you have to really bang your mind into this idea. That hu hanasi v'haresh. Mimenu v'al yodei is all of the hashpa'as. That's like the beginning. It's the beginning. It's the foundation. And it's something the Rebbe says every chassid especially must know. It's not okay to think that the Rebbe is a Baal Ruach HaKodesh, even though the Rebbe is a Baal Ruach HaKodesh, or a Goen, or all of those beautiful things the Rebbe says in the beginning of this letter. The Rebbe says it's true that the Rebbe is all of those things, but that's not the Iker. And it's not okay to not be aware of the Iker, because if we're not aware of the Iker, then we don't know what his kashrus is. And then it becomes very hard to navigate what it means to be a chassid of the Rebbe. Now, all of these stories are really just an expression, not just as in, like, it's meaningless, but they are an expression of his kashrus, of the connection, I'm going to say, of the connection that the Rebbe has to us, and of how the Rebbe holds on to us, and how the Rebbe pays attention to us, and how the Rebbe is aware of what's happening by us. So that's really the point of all of these stories and all of these anecdotes and tidbits that we hear. We have to stop and think. So what do I see here? What do I understand from here? What comes out from here?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, just like it's a davar haposhut, that if we hear a story that the Rebbe was misyaches to a shliach in a certain way, especially we hear in the first early years, every shliach got a certain thing and a certain yechidus and a certain expression that the Rebbe said about the shlichus. We understand, it's almost so poshut that every shliach who goes out, that what the Rebbe said about the shliach in Tavshin Yud, and in Tavshin Chof, and in Tavshin Lamed, even if the Rebbe said it to a particular shliach, when the Rebbe said Ich fahr doch mit eich l'moshel, everyone knows that it means the Rebbe is with every single shliach. Well, the Rebbe only said it to one shliach. That statement that the Rebbe said to the one shliach is a binyan av, is a yesoid, becomes the foundation of what we know of how the Rebbe is with every single shliach.
Do you find that Bachram today have an easier or harder time with knowing this fact?
It's hard for me to know how Bachrim felt Amal. I definitely think that.
Meaning, in your case, you're one of the people from the Yuds that had that had it live.
I definitely think that that it's much more difficult today, and I think that sometimes we gloss it over, and we assume, or we're afraid to think about it, or we're not sure what to do about it. But I definitely, from my little corner of where I speak to and have a kasha with Bachrim, I definitely feel that it's a challenge and it's a difficult thing. I think that For sure, when it comes to the to feeling it and experiencing it, it's very difficult. And I think that they sometimes have, I'm not like saying that there's a problem with them, but I think it's natural. Like they have a certain natural feeling or assumption that we don't really have it. And this person who stood in 770, he really has it. I don't have it. I'm sure that when he stood by the Rebbe, he felt like this, and I don't feel like that. And then they try to understand, why don't they feel? And they're not sure what they're supposed to feel. And that becomes first of all, it's very subtle, and it's very, very difficult. Like I went into the oil, and I didn't feel anything. How many times did Bachim say that? How many times did I hear that from Bachim? How many times did Bachim ask, so how could we be Chassidim today when we don't see the Rebbe by the farbrengens? When we don't see the Rebbe coming into davening in shul? And I'm not talking about having this question from a person, from a Bacher who he's spending his days, playing and running around. I'm talking about Bachim who are already 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They've been spending years and years learning and farbrengen and davening, and they could spend Shabbosim by the Oyhel and maybe a few weeks during the year by the Oyhel. And they still struggle with it. It still bothers them. It's still, it's there. It's there. Now, the answer is that you could become a chassid today the same way you were able to be a chassid then. I definitely think that it's more difficult today. And I don't think that we benefit from saying it. No, it's not harder. It's just the same. It is much more difficult. We are in Golus. Golus, cheshech kafel mechupel she'ein kedugmasai. So they say, no, it's not. Of course, the definition of Golus is that it's a Helam v'Hester. The definition of Helam v'Hester is that it's more difficult. And there's something wrong with not acknowledging that it's more difficult. It is more difficult. But the method is the same. It's the same Rebbe, the same hiskashros to the Rebbe, and it's the same avodah that we need to be mekusher to the Rebbe. Because a person who stood by the Rebbe, had the schus to see the Rebbe, and danced by the Rebbe, and see the Rebbe by a farbrengen, v'chulu, didn't become a chassid automatically. He then had to make a choice. Is he going to be a chassid? In other words, is he going to be a chassid? Not is he connected to the Rebbe? Of course he's connected to the Rebbe. Is he going to become a chassid, or is he going to, be lazy and go to sleep? And maybe a lot of people made that choice. Now, it was easier for a few reasons. There's just like a very practical reason. Like, you could almost feel like a chassid without doing anything, because I was there and I saw and I danced and I sang, and there was a new liquid that came out. There was just like a certain avir. And that creates a certain, even if it's a little bit superficial, just like superficial doesn't mean fake. Superficial means chitzonius. But and besides for that, there's no shaila. If I heard the Rebbe say, I just now saw, I was by a kafes, and I was, and I saw the Rebbe dancing in the Sefer Torah, and I was out of this whole universe that could give me a very strong boost, and that could definitely make it very clear how to go about things. But avodah is definitely easier than the now. But the inyan is the same. The same things. All those things that we see in andere Wörter, all those things that the Rebbe says in the Siches, especially in Tavshin Yud, but really throughout, that how do you strengthen your iskashros? You strengthen your iskashros through limud haTorah of the Rebbe, and through living by the Rebbe's Torah, which that's key, nicht nur lernen, was the Rebbe sagt, but to implement what the Rebbe says in your life. In your life, it means sign practical, the do's and the don'ts, to learn Rambam and to learn Chitas and so on and so forth. And it also means, maybe even in a deeper way, it means to your hashkofas hachayim, your yiras shamayim, your attitude towards a blad gemara. You're for sure, Allah haskama v'kama, your attitude towards another yid, and towards Abbas Yisrael, and towards the whole union of doing mitzvahim to be mekare b'yid Yiddishkeit. Your whole life is changed through that's the limud Torah. The Rebbe didn't say it about Tafshin Pehei. The Rebbe said it about Tafshin Yud and Tafshin Yud Aleph and Tafshin Yud Beis. In other words, when the Rebbe quotes Nahayemim from the Friedrich Rebbe that Bere'iyah Bilvad Lo Isagi, that wasn't only for after Gimel Tammuz. That was for in what we call Shonim Tiketikunon, when we were able to see the Rebbe, and when the Rebbe came out to farbrengen and sat for hours with us, which is another thing that we don't even so much appreciate enough. How many hours the Rebbe Poshet came to spend with the Chassidim. Poshet. Loi hoyseke de Gemasa in the past. That none of the Rabbeim did this. The Rebbe would Poshet come and sit for hours noch anand with the Chassidim. I mean, you have some farbrengens that are 6 hours. I mean, this is mind-boggling. We're like almost used to it. Like, oh, the Rebbe only farbrengen for 2 hours on Tafshin and Beis. Like as if it's like 2 hours. But in other words, it was like a double approach. The Rebbe farbrengens for 4 or 5 hours on the Shabbos afternoon in the Tafshin and Beis. We don't even be like, because the Rebbe in the Rebbe Poshet, the Rebbe gießt in a oifen that didn't happen before, and it was almost like the Rebbe Poshet wanted to spend time with Chassidim. I'm saying, and isn't das Tachton? The Rebbe Poshet wanted to spend time with Chassidim.
Yeah, I heard a recording from Avram Mayar farbrengen in later years. None maybe. Like Tess, I don't know. He's talking. I heard a recording of him talking farbrengen, and he says that the Rebbe is giving out dollars. He says the Rebbe Pashat wants to kennen sich mit Eilim. The Rebbe wants to know. The Rebbe wants to know the crowd. The Rebbe wants to be with the crowd. The Rebbe Pashat spending time with us. Sure. That's what he says. That was his explanation. B'shas Ma'aseh, when it was happening of dollars and everything.
But it isn't a normal thing. And even looking, you get the later years, Nun Aleph, in every opportunity, noch hasicha, noch hamayir, and dollars, and for sure, Rabbi Scharf, the hours that the Rebbe stood on Sukkot for the Dalet Minim, or after the day after Yom Kippur to give out dollars, Nun Beis, or the day after Yom Kippur, Nun Beis, to give out dollars to the children. The fact that the Rebbe sat with the children for rallies and for like Ba'imah parades, we were so born into it. Now, of course, the Rebbe gives out dollars. I mean, what do you think? I almost thought that this is like, this is what a Rebbe does. But anyways, the point is, when it says Bere'iyah bilvad lo isagi, the Rebbe says in the letter, the Rebbe is quoting from Friedrich Rebbe, that seeing the Rebbe is not enough. The Rebbe is not talking about Tafshin Pehei. The Rebbe is talking about the years that we were able to see the Rebbe. In other words, my point is that his kashrus didn't change, and the way to become a kosher didn't change. It's more difficult. We're in a hell and behesta. It is more difficult. And we have to sometimes put in more effort, and we have to be a little bit more stubborn. And we need to, we don't have a lot of the makif, which is a very powerful thing. But how to become a kosher? The same way we were always able to
So
become a
my
kosher.
question, so I'm thinking about what you're saying. So I would say that what I do basically with my life, which is derher, which is essentially what we're doing is helping people to give them tools to for this aveda of being ma'erer, this kashrus. It's obviously not the only tool because you have to learn the Rebbe Sichos and Memorim and whatever. But this is one of the tools. What we're doing here right now is part of that. The challenge. Sometimes I look at like the bird's eye view, of klolos anash. Just because I'm involved, I mean, I think everyone should care about the klolos anash, but for not that I'm trying to interact with anash and hopefully have some type of influence. So the basically what I find is that they're very, there's also, this has been said so many times and it's true, that because it's a harder Aveda, it's much more deeper, it's much more real. And that's why you have Bachrim that know more than people from Amol and more connected to them. I'm saying this is all fact. The hard part is that since it's an Aveda, there are certain people that just don't do it. But they're called the Lubavitch Chassidim, and the Rebbe is Bezei Atayr Zach, but they're not doing it. They're not looking for it. They're not trying. Whatever, they didn't have it. They didn't get that value from their home or whichever yeshiva they went to or whatever. So sometimes it's like, okay, so the same crowd is always engaging and looking and trying to enhance and become more connected. But then you have a whole bunch of people that aren't. But from Sveiten side, you see that without us doing anything, the Rebbe's influence in the world is stronger and starker and lebediker more than it ever was. So it's not a question of the Rebbe; it's a question in the Chassidim. So that in my mind is just something that that today is there's it's a problem. It's a problem. So I don't know if you deal with this because maybe the Bachrim that are in your yeshiva are the ones that are dafka looking for it. And I don't know. Maybe it's not your. But ultimately, I don't know if it's a question. I guess it's either a question of what to do or how, or meaning there's a certain thing that was before Gimel Tammuz, which was automatically everyone's in. I don't know, let's say Mashiach. Yeah, the Rebbe's talking about Mashiach, and if you're a Lubavitcher, you're part of it. Even if you're not. You know what I'm saying? Like for everyone. And today, it's not always like that. And obviously, at the core, it's like that. People like the neshamas are connected to the Rebbe, and it's more than the neshamas. It's their life choices. And so I don't know if you know how is that addressed. One of the integral components of being a chassid are the Chassidishe Yomim Tovim and Yom Pagra. Whether it's Hey Tevis, Yud Shvat, Yud Aleph Nisan, or Gimel Tammuz. These days give us an opportunity to connect with our Rabbeim, to connect with each other, and be better Chassidim. What is the story behind each of these days? How did the Rebbe commemorate and celebrate these days? And most importantly, what are the lessons, the takeaways, and the action items Hamaisa Hua Ikr needed for each of these days? All of this and much, much more are answered in the new set recently published by derher. Our Days is a journey through the Chabad calendar in story, meaning, and practice. With over 700 beautiful, glossy pages with elevated content, beautiful, beautiful photographs, you, your family, and friends will enjoy and live with each Chassidishe Yom Tiv. This book is a must for every Lubavitcher home, for every shul, for every school. It is a perfect gift item. This will not collect dust. It will be used day after day, month after month, year after year. You can have the set. Go to derher.org/our days. Order your set today and start living with the Chassidishe Yamim Tov.
I don't have the answers to your questions, but I would say two things. One thing I would say is, I'm not saying one is first, one is second, but one thing I would say is, Tamu Re'u Kitev Hashem. What does it mean? It means that when you taste it in the right way, it is the most geschmacke, fulfilling, uplifting, and elevating thing. Poshet Tamu Re'u Kitev Hashem. How do you get a guy to learn? What does it mean that you successfully got a person to learn? You didn't successfully get a person to learn, even though I tell that a lot of times to the Bachim, you haven't got a person to learn until he learned and Poshet felt that it's Poshet Geschmack to learn. It's Poshet enjoyable. I want to do it more. It's really, really Geschmack. If a person tastes what it means to actually really be a chassid, Poshet to leben, that your life should be according to the Rebbe, according to Chassidishe, which is one thing, obviously. And the more you apply it, and the more you make changes because of it, and the more you connect, the more you write to the Rebbe, the more you know that when you're writing to the Rebbe, you're able to write to the Rebbe about things that are happening in your life, Sai personally, which is extremely important, and Sai in the way you interact with others, whether you are on shlichus or even if you're not on shlichus and you're spending your extra time doing mivtzayim, or the people you meet on your business, you do mivtzayim with them, v'chulu, v'chulu. You Poshet, it's Poshet Geschmack. It's Poshet feels good. It feels right. It fills you up in a way that nothing else could. In other words, but that's one thing. In other words, a lot of times we haven't tasted it. Now, how do you taste it? That's the question. But that's one thing that I think is very important. Another thing is to really, I think it has 2 points. But the Rebbe would often mention that you should go out to a Yid and tell the Yid, you're a Ben, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yankiv. And when he realizes and recognizes that he's a Ben, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yankiv, then that will cause him to make a change. Because his identity became clear to him. And when his identity is clear to him, so then it doesn't take overnight, but then he could slowly start setting up his lifestyle and his life choices and his life derech according to what's past for Ben Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yankiv. If we could find a way to, in a constant way, not once a year, before Yud Aleph Nisan, v'chayetze bazen, when there's a big, it has to be in a more constant oifen to bring out especially for Anash, that you have a Rebbe. Not that, I'm part of Lubavitch, and Lubavitch has a big Rebbe, and there's a big shlichus, and no, Lubavitch is Lubavitch, but the Olav Bifrat, you have a Rebbe, and you are connected to the Rebbe. And what you do matters to the Rebbe and makes a difference. There's the famous letter the Rebbe writes. It's in Igris Kodesh Chedek Daled, but the Chassid who wanted to go to college. And the Rebbe writes them one letter before that, if you go to college, you're schlepping the Rebbe with you to college. Now, even before we go weiter, just a powerful concept here. You're so connected to the Rebbe that if you make a choice to go to college, you're schlepping the Rebbe with you to college. It's not Musar. So you better not go because you're schlepping the Rebbe to college. The Rebbe is so attached to you that if you go to college, you're schlepping the Rebbe with you to college. That's the tone. It's very different. Then the Rebbe continues in the next letter. The Rebbe says, you didn't answer me, but if you're going to say a very scary thing, okay, I don't want to schlep the Rebbe with me to college, so I'll let go. I'll let go. I'll let go so I can go to college. The Rebbe says, if his kashrus would be from you to the Rebbe, so then you can say that. But the Rebbe is holding on to you. I think Loshen is bechevli avoyses. It could be I'm wrong than Loshen. But the for sure very strong Loshen. The Rebbe is holding on to you very tight. So you could leave go from today till tomorrow. Aber der Rebbe wird allemal anhalten in dir. You are someone who the Rebbe holds on to. You are someone that the Rebbe is looking out for and the Rebbe is holding on to. So you can't run away from being the Rebbe's Amensh. You could run away from living as the Rebbe's Amensh. Du bist allemal dem Rebbe's Kind. Which means the Rebbe is always looking out and waiting. And it works the opposite way around also. If you make a foolish choice, then you're schlepping the Rebbe with you in that choice. And that's an uvda, that's a fact. That's not, if I'm very, very mekusher and I knetch my eyes this way, I have nothing against knetching your eyes. I'm not belittling. And if I learn 20 mamarim, and if I'm by every farbrengen, and if I say a lot of l'chaim, so then I'm a chassid from the Rebbe, and then whatever I do matters to the Rebbe, and then I have to behave like a normal human being, and I have to be a chassid. Every single member of Anash, by extension, I think we could say it about every single Yid. But we see such l'shonis. Every single member of Anash needs to know this. As du bist a mensch, you're a person that the Rebbe is holding on to you. You're a person that the Rebbe is thinking about. You have a connection to the Rebbe in a personal way. You may not do anything about it. You may not invest anything for it. You may almost never think about it. But the Rebbe is thinking about you. Your neshama is a prat from the Rebbe's neshama. The Rebbe is the neshama klali. That's what it means that the Rebbe is the neshama klali. So that means we have to touch it up. You, me, him, are a prat from the Rebbe's neshama. That means that's the end of it. There's no how much I did, how much I didn't do. Now, it doesn't mean, it's not a discount, and therefore I don't have to do anything. It's actually just the opposite in the way the Rebbe looks at it. Ebazei, not only I need to do something about it, I want to do something about it. I think so many of us end up feeling like, yeah, I'm a Lubavitch, and I'm very proud of Chabad. And for sure, I'm going to say I'm Chabad, and I'm going to stand with the shit of Chabad. And I don't like when people speak against Chabad, and I'm so proud every time there's something about Chabad. But it's not me; it's Chabad. So then, whatever. Then I could really say, I want to enjoy life. I'm not saying Kivayachol because it's not enjoyable, but it's Kivayachol because you also have a neshama. If you're only a goof, so then it's enjoyment. But you're also a neshama. Not only also neshama, your neshama is your iker. I want to just enjoy life. I want to have a good time. And anyways, not this big mekusha. So I may as well just have a good time, and I'll support. I'll support a shliach. I'll support a yeshiva. I'll support a program of people becoming connected to the Rebbe. But it's before you start it, it's already personal. And if you'll allow me, I would add one more nekuda. And this one more nekuda is, I think that things became so distorted. I'm going to try not to go on a rant. But things became so distorted by the time we got to Topshin Pei Hey. There's a Shimmer from the Friedrich Rebbe. I don't remember. I think it's like Be'emat of Shinches, maybe I don't remember. The Friedrich Rebbe says about the people who mix in Chassidus to their things, to their ideas, and therefore it has a kernel of truth, and therefore it sells. I mean, the Friedrich Rebbe doesn't say the Lashon it sells, but that's the concept. You could attract people to it because you put in some real Chassidus, so there's some emes here. The Friedrich Rebbe says that all the emes Zachan that we find in the Chochmei Sa'umais, really its source is in Torah, and that's why it holds water. So things became very distorted, and because things became very distorted, I think people are not truly aware of what is the Rebbe's Shitta and what is the Derech of Chabad. And I think sometimes very sincere Chassidim, I've seen it so many times, who are really like, they're mekusher and they're devoted and they want to do what's right. They just don't know. They think, oh yeah, this is the way we do it in Chabad. This is the Chabad way. I mean, if I would have another 2 hours, I would give you 20 examples. But my point is...
I just saw an example the other day.
That what?
Debating if we should get into the nitty-gritty. I'll give an example.
Okay, give an example and we'll see how far we go.
Everyone's sending around. I don't want to but anyways, everyone's sending around pictures of basically a Lubavitcher person, female, holding a gun, part of the IDF, and very nice, Israel, and we know that the Rebbe spoke
how beautiful
about,
it is.
Yeah, we actually wrote a whole article in the head. The Rebbe the Yachas with Sahal and the Pasha, the Gashmius. Protecting millions of Yidden. I mean, this is amazing. It happens to be that Torah and the Rebbe believes that having women in the army is actually, since it's not allowed according to Torah, it's putting at risk millions of Jews because it's not being done according to Torah. And I see very good people just like sending around and being happy. I mean, like, do you know that this is a problem? And the Rebbe spoke about this, and the Rebbe advocated that it shouldn't happen, and the Rebbe said these
exactly from the Rebbe
that it's putting people in danger because the army's not being done according to the Torah. That's a good example. It's like
that's a beautiful example, and it doesn't come from other Rebbe. It could come from a place the Rebbe supports Sahel, and this is so beautiful and this is so amazing. And yeah, other Rebbe, the fact that it's paraded is actually a good point. These things become paraded. We're on a podcast. It becomes podcasted. And it becomes, this is the way it is. And I heard it from someone who was a Lubavitcher. I mean, I'm not saying I heard. I'm saying like people say, what do you mean? This is, I mean, there's unfortunately many examples about this. So what happens is that becomes a third very big, very significant leg in this problem. In other words, if we're not standing on strong yesodis of basic yiras shamayim, of basic chassidus, of basic hashkafa of the Rebbe, then we can't be strong in iskashrus, and we can't have the proper guidance, and we can't have the proper chayma zutera, the wall, the gate that keeps us in the right way and keeps us very firm and very courageous and unapologetic. But we don't know. I've been asked Benegea to smartphones, unfiltered smartphones. I've been asked by Lubavitchers, Lubavitcher girls. What was the nusach of the question? Should we be, was something along the lines like this. The nusach was, should we be uncomfortable that the girls who go to Beis Yaakov, they're not Lubavitcher girls, have a higher standard regarding have a different standard regarding the cell phones. Or no, we should be very proud. This is who we are, and this is the way we do it. So I said, 1 second, hold on a minute. What is the Lubavitch hashkafa about having access to the internet?
Open access.
Yeah, open access to the internet. Oh, there's even a question here? Okay, now it's a little bit different in that area. Same question came up with tznius. So I answered, when it comes to a sheitel, obviously, sheitel achos have halachas, but obviously we're talking about a proper sheitel. When it comes to a sheitel, we should be very proud that we wear a sheitel. The Rebbe said dafke a sheitel and not a tichel, and we have to be proud and strict about never being in public with a tichel. Only with a sheitel. The Rebbe gesagt. But when it comes to tznius, the Rebbe gesagt that we maybe have to learn from them sometimes. My point isn't that we have to learn from them or from here. My point is, we don't know. Sometimes we just don't know. I saw such a strong sikha from the Rebbe. I'm not saying it's the only time the Rebbe said it, but for me it was like, it literally changed such a big shift in my mind. The Rebbe says I think it's Pashas Bolok, Tavshin Mem Beis, it's in that Kufas Azman. And the Rebbe speaks about, it's like in the middle of a whole bunch of things, like Mem Beis farbrengen are like, you got to learn it to know it. The Rebbe says that by Avram Avinu, it says Vayachav Eshes Chamirei. By Bilam, it says Asoinoi. It both means donkey. So this is what's the difference. Such a moiridik. It shifts. It sounds subtle, but it makes such a massive difference in our approach to these inyonim. So the Rebbe says, when you say the word chamoir, it rather reminds us of the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, Kesira chamoir seinacha, ozev taziv imoy.
You have to work with it.
You have to work with it. You have to transform it. You have to use it for Avodas Hashem. It's not about destroying it. It's not about breaking it. Everyone knows that. And that's like a fundamental part of Chassidus Chabad. And it is. It is. But then the Rebbe says, by Bilam it says Asoinoi. Why? Because Bilam's donkey was used by Bilam for Averes, for Dvarim Bilti Retzoyim, as Rashi points out. So what does that teach us? The Rebbe says, what happened to Bilam's donkey? Bilam's donkey was killed. So the Rebbe says, when do we say Ozev Tazev Imoy? If it wasn't yet a mirshel for you, if you did not yet stumble, if this Dover Gashmi, whatever it may be, was never a stumbling block for you in your Avodas Hashem, so then the attitude is Ozev Tazev Imoy. But if this is a Dover Gashmi that you already stumbled upon, it already caused you to do something wrong, it already caused you to go away from your Avodas Hashem, so then we don't say Ozev Tazev Imoy. Then we say Horeg Targenu, you have to kill it, you have to destroy it. That's a very big difference. That literally changes our whole understanding, I think, of Ozev Tazev Imoy. Of yet nothing is treif and everything is kosher. We just have to use it for Avodas Hashem. No, not everything. Not everything. Everything is potentially, even though even certain things, a davar acher needs to be its way of Ozev Tazev Imoy is to destroy it. But even parve things which does have the potential of being used for Avodas Hashem, if you stumbled on it, then you need to destroy it. You don't need to use it for Avodas Hashem. So the Rebbe says in the Sikha, it's a moiridik sikha. I don't know if there's many other times the Rebbe says this in the Kudah, but after I saw it, was like, it's so pashtus, it like makes so much sense. Like it's not a chidush be'etzem, but we have such a. So that's what I'm saying. When things become so, you use a kernel of what the Rebbe says, and you apply it to a bunch of things, and then we make shittis, and then we don't know was sagt the Rebbe be'emes, and was is the Rebbe's chinuch, what is the Rebbe's education, and what's the Rebbe's outlook and approach. Because we either because things are taken out of context, either because things are twisted a little bit. Some of these subtle things you twist it a little bit, and you are way offline. So I think if we would put these three things together, I don't know what's the right order. If we put these Tamur Ukitei Hashem, it's Pashat Geschmack. If you sit, let's not start with a full hour. If you sit and you find a simple sikha for a half hour, just watch the Rebbe, get it with subtitles, close the lights, set up a half hour without your phone, and watch the Rebbe saying a sikha, any sikha about anything. You're not ready for a full 5-6 hour farbrengen now. That's fine. But you'll see that it does something to you. Listen to the Rebbe speaking. Go to sleep. Put on Igune Hisvadus. Listen to a Maiserav. It's a different. Start doing little things. You'll see how geschmack it is. Come move on, learn Chassidishe fahren davenen. Have a seder of learning, not learning as in rattling off. Have a seder in learning and absorbing a farbrengen from the Rebbe, or a maimer from the Rebbe, or the sichas from the Rebbe. Choose whatever it is that works for you. Either do it with a chavrusa, do it with a shir, but do it like in a real way, in an intense way, even if it's for a short amount of time. Learn it, absorb it, think about it, take it through your day. Make it a point. Like you could have it on your calendar, a reminder, 3 times a day, or once a day, or 3 times a week, where you're like a reminder at 3:00 in the afternoon to go back and think over what I learned this morning, or I learned yesterday morning from the Rebbe's Maimer, and what does it mean to me, and what could it do for me, and how does it apply to me, and how does it apply to the way I make decisions, or to the way I run my life, or to how I speak to my children, or how I interact with them, or how I do my mitzvahim, or how I talk to my talmidim. So that's Pashat Tamur Ukitei Hashem. It's Pashat Geschmack. Then remembering that mir seinen Kinder von Rebbe. We belong to the Rebbe. We're connected to the Rebbe. In a personal way. You are connected to the Rebbe. But the whole Lubavitch doesn't exist. The Rebbe looks at you. And the third thing is to push it. Let's get back to really the basics of what the Rebbe says, of what the Rebbe holds, of what the Rebbe teaches, of what the Rebbe, what type of lifestyle, in simple words that we use today, what type of lifestyle does the Rebbe advocate? Not what does it feel good today and what's popular tomorrow and what changes after tomorrow. It's set, it's clear, it's focused, it's guided, and the Rebbe is holding your hand. I was holding your hand. I remember there was one of the farbrengens when I was learning in Marist on Rabbi Bronsky, who's now a shliach in Colorado, I think, was then the mashgiach. So he was farbrengen, one of his farbrengens. He farbrengen a few times, not many times, but he farbrengen. He was very geschmacky yid. So I remember he was farbrengen, and it hit me. He said, you could try your own path. No, he has an interesting way of bringing something out. Like, then you could try your own path. Go ahead, try your own path. Go your own way. Maybe you'll be matzliach. Maybe you won't be matzliach. But he said, if you go in the Rebbe's derech, you have a guarantee. It's the Rebbe's path. It's the Rebbe's way. There's no doubts. There's no questions. And you will be matzliach. You will be matzliach. And that in itself will help you, I'm hesitant to use the word, but will help you feel connected, will help you feel part of it. Not feel part of Klal HaChasidim. You should feel that you're connected to the Rebbe. Because the Rebbe Poshet affects your life. I'm not even talking about the Zgula Shabbat. Poshet in a Gashmi is the case, and the Rebbe affects your life. The Rebbe teaches you. The Rebbe is guiding you. The Rebbe is helping you navigate your day-to-day life. And it's so available for us right there. Could you imagine? The Rebbe could help you navigate your day-to-day life. It's right there. It's right there. It's Behesag Yad. How do we have it in the Parsha? Loi b'shamayim hi, v'loi me'ever layom hi, ki karev elecha davar me'ed. I think that would, even in my life, if I would be more focused on that more often, I think it would make a very big. Now, at the end of the day, everyone has chavshis, and yeah, someone could just say, you know what, I enjoy Olam Hazeh, and everyone has it, besides from me. But the point is, just by the way, Stam, as a side note, and everyone has a Yetzer Hara, and that means everyone stumbles. But there is stumbling, and there is making it a shitta. That this is okay. Very, very different. Very, very different. Very, very different.
Or saying that I want to be honest because I gave it to him Yetzer Hara so many times, and I'm going to be honest and give in to him all of the time.
Exactly. The Rebbe says in the Sikha that a person says that the Achashverosh Shua Achashverosh Sikha Hayadua. What's the Rebbe's here? That a person could think that I'm being a hypocrite. The Rebbe says I'm being a hypocrite. So therefore, but the Rebbe says I don't think the Rebbe expresses it this way, but it's the opposite. You're being a hypocrite the other times. Who are you for real?
That's the story of the Chas with the Rebbe Marash.
What?
With the Levushim.
Yeah.
He came to the Rebbe Marash and he says that the Rebbe Marash says, "Why are you wearing your business clothes?" He says, "I stopped wearing it when I came to Lubavitch. I stopped putting on the Chassidishe clothes when I came to Lubavitch because I decided, that das bin ich. Who am I fooling? I'm fooling the Rebbe." And the Rebbe Marash said, "I thought you were fooling the world when you put on the business clothes."
Exactly, 100%. But this really goes back also to this nakuda of just one more of the parading and advertising the pictures and the I did this and I did that. In other words, it becomes that's how slowly. The first time someone sees it, and the 10th time someone sees it, they're like, oh. And the 100th time, it's like, yeah, this is what we do. How did the Rebbe say? The Rebbe says in the Sikha, the Rebbe says, that the politiker know, if you say a very big lie, the Rebbe refers to Yemach Shemoy, the Rebbe says from Ich will nicht sagen sein Namen, the Rebbe refers to from Germany, that as man sagt, a greise liegen, asach mol.
Yeah, that was a Nazi slogan.
Yeah. Exactly. You say a big lie very, very often, it'll be accepted. It'll be accepted. Now, I think most people are not malicious. I think most people don't do it. I really believe that most people do it because they really believe in it. And that's part of it. I guess that's makes it, I don't know if it makes it more sad or less sad, but I don't think people are being malicious. But the Peil Mamish, that, and that really could lead us to another thing. If that is, we have to be careful. What are we allowing into ourselves? What are we absorbing? I mean, this is really a whole conversation for itself, but how many hours a day? Okay, there's the hours of the day that we have to. I'm not talking about that. How many hours a day are we absorbing a sicha, a maimer, a farbrengen, a brief, and can move on any part of Torah? And how many hours a day are we absorbing from Kevayochel benign stam dvarim betelim to what's called Yiddish magazines, to downright goyish books and newspapers. And what's weighing it, So, like, where do we expect to end up? This is like just basic, even like, I want to be a big chassid, but I have some typhus. Okay, but what do you think is going to be goyver if you're spending this amount of time? What?
It's a mathematical equation.
Yeah, it's a basic math. Exactly, it's basic math. Even an Alitaran can figure out this math. I don't know if today you're allowed to say that, right? I'm all an Alitaran was proud to be an Alitaran who doesn't know how to read and doesn't understand math. Whatever. Today you have to like.
That's why the Eibishter created calculators
for Alitaran.
Yeah.
But my point is that we have to be aware. It's not like an extreme. Oh, you listen to her extreme chassidim. Nothing extreme about it. If you want to be a certain type of person and you want to live a certain type of lifestyle, you can't shoot yourself in the foot and fight against what you want your goal to be. If you want to amass millions of dollars in your bank account, you can't have a hole in the bottom of your what's it called? Of your safe where the money is falling out in the bottom of your wallet, because then it's not going to hold the money. You can't do it. You can't have that. You can't have that. It just doesn't work. And how do I know it doesn't work? We all know it doesn't work because Pukhazi, come out and see. You just have to open up your eyes. And especially that today, it's mamish beheseg yad. There are so many, the highest caliber of vocabulary or not, but there's so many. First of all, you have the Chassidishe, so that's the davar hapashut, And no, but it's saka. It's geschmack. It's entertaining. It has good. In other words, you don't have to sit and learn. You could read it. Plus, you have so.
In general, the things that we do. That's what we're trying to do. When you're not learning, you
exactly.
Can have,
exactly. Yeah. Or you have the new sefer. I didn't get it yet, but I saw a few things, a few pictures of it. The new sefer about the days. These are things that we could read. Mm-hmm. Plus, you have so much, even if you can't read it in the Hatamim, in the original, in the Langebrief, there's so much from Sichas in English, from Rabbi Afton. There's so much to read in English. Especially a lot of geschmack, lachluchis that you could push it, absorb and read and learn and take into you. And that fills up your metzias. If you're going to fill up your metzias with listening to this person and listening to that person, it's not a question. Is it allowed? Sometimes is this allowed? Is this like asur? Is this mutar? Is it chassidish? Is it not chassidish? You have to look at was tut es zu der Mensch. Was tut es zu der Mensch? At best, a very big amount of it just makes us. It ruins our mahus. It like the Friedrich Rebbe says about dvarim b'telim. It ruins the mahus of the person. It just makes you prost. And at worst, it brings a lot of goyishkeit. And that for sure doesn't help to being a chassid. In other words, a person can't sit and invest his mitzias and his tainug in dvarim chumriyim begashmim and just plain grobkeit, and then wonder, why don't I feel his kashrus? Ask yourself, what are you even saying? Are you serious? There's something missing in the basic understanding of it.
And this also ties into what you were saying before about phones. Maybe don't have access to the whole.
Exactly.
That will help you not.
I think that's what the first person, the first one to make a takona and to make a hagbole and a geder was not Satmar, the Rebbe. The Rebbe made two very big takonis in the early years of the Nesias. One was not to have a television, not because every single thing on the television is bad. The same Rebbe which tells us that we should use the television to spread Yiddishkeit says you're not allowed to have a television. And it was a big fight. And it was a big milchama. Every American film at home had a television come out. You hear it. I mean, today you hear sometimes a Rosh Yeshiva will slip out of his mouth a television program he watched in the 1950s and 60s or 70s. In the Yuds, the Rebbe was one of the Rebbe's Milchamis. And the second thing that was a very big Milchama by the Rebbe was Mechitzis, by Chasanis, by a Shul. It's not like, it's not the Lubavitch way to make, to aser something, to say that this is not allowed. No, it's actually very deirashvi to do that. But there's a subtlety because it's emes. Then there's a subtlety. It doesn't mean that we will not use the radio to spread Tanya.
Although
it doesn't mean
my 8th grade graduation, Rabbi Rosenfeld and Alatera, Allah Shalom, gave a whole speech about this. He says, well, we were at a certain point going to kick out every kid from school that had a television, and Tafshanun Beis, and Rabbi Chadikov told us not to. His point was, fine, we're not going to kick you out, but this is not fine. So maybe
we're not talking about kicking anyone out. I'm not talking about that.
Fine. This was very important words they said. I just want to backtrack. Okay, we'll close this tab and
go back to an old tab.
Yeah, we'll go back. Could you tell me a little bit about things that you wrote to the Rebbe in those years? I know you had a few interesting answers from the Rebbe about different things. Mine is said.
So the truth is, most of what we wrote to the Rebbe was, most of what we wrote to the Rebbe was like in a geder of a duch, like a report card from school, test grades. We always wrote before Yud Aleph Nisan to the Rebbe, writing to the Rebbe that we took a certain achlata for Yud Aleph Nisan. Obviously, it was all thanks to my mother that we did it, but she told us to do it. She taught us to do it. And, writing to the Rebbe, I think even writing to the Rebbe, a bracha for the Rebbe, I'm actually quite certain. We wrote to the Rebbe in the Yud Aleph Nisan letter, a bracha for the Rebbe to have, I don't know if the words were Shnas Hatzlacha or whatever it was, but like a bracha for the Rebbe's birthday.
It's a whole debate because the Rebbe by the Yud Aleph Nisan would thank those that sent him brachas.
Yeah.
So it was like a debate when I was a bacher, at least, like, so does a bacher write a bracha to the Rebbe? Like, I don't know. Like,
okay, so it's a good question, but I was a kid, so I don't have to weigh in on it. And the truth is, I think every single thing we wrote to the Rebbe, we got a response from the Rebbe. I remember I definitely never wrote anything to the Rebbe before my father passed away. It definitely became more natural to write to the Rebbe after everything the Rebbe was doing for us. And that's just a fact. The Rebbe would almost always give an answer. Mamish. Even if it was a short answer. Nisgabel v'tach or tach al absuras tevis ken yevaser la'osid. Yevaser tev la'osid. I once wrote to the Rebbe, I wrote a letter to the Rebbe together with my sister. We sent it in together. It was like a joint letter. And it was just a question. When is Mashiach going to come? I think we were talking to my mother about it. And my mother said, she wanted to just write to the Rebbe, ask the Rebbe or something like that. So that's what we did. So it was actually around the time of Yud Aleph Nisan Tavshin Nun Aleph. And the Rebbe answered. I'll read the letter. I'll read the lashon. Rochel Tichye Scharf. That's my sister. Menachem Mendel Scharf. Hashem ha'elim zman haketz. Kishayankiv Avinu.
You're going to translate?
Yeah. Let me just read the whole thing, then I'll translate. I should read line by line and translate.
Whatever you want.
I just want to get the whole,
Yeah, okay, go.
Hashem Ha'elim Zman Haketz. Ksheyankiv Avinu Rotza Legalos Es Haketz Levonov, Ha'elim Hashem Mimenu. Kimesupar is underlined, the Pirush Rashi. Azekir al Hatzirin. We didn't get an Xaviat Kodesh, it was like rewritten by Label Groner. Now, we got it mamish within a few days. We got it around Yud Gimel Nissen. I mean, Erev Pesach, the Rebbe was quite busy. And we gave it in maybe a day or two before Yud Aleph Nissen. And that means within a few days, this was like some emergency question to answer, but for the Rebbe it was. So in English, the answer is, so again, the question is, when is Mashiach going to come? So the Rebbe's response is, Hashem concealed the time of the coming of Mashiach. That's what the Ketz is. When Yankov, and then the Rebbe explains, when Yankov Avinu wanted to reveal to his children when Mashiach will come, Hashem concealed it from him. As is said over in Pirush Rashi, and the Rebbe underlined Kimesupar, the Rebbe underlined as is said over, or as is told in Pirush Rashi, and then Askir Halatzin, I will mention you by the tzin, by the oil of the Friedrich Rebbe. So that's, I probably should have this answer by Hesegiyat, so I'm gonna,
Do you remember what you felt then? Or what?
I felt like $1 million, and that was it. I didn't feel anything different. In other words, there was no. I mean, now I could sit and learn Ein Pshat in the answer in Kol Minei ways, but at the time, even though it felt Pashtus, I mean, anytime we wrote to the Rebbe responded. So why shouldn't the Rebbe respond to this? I would have liked that the Rebbe should tell me exactly when Mashiach is coming, but I don't think that I thought that the Rebbe is actually going to tell me that. It's not what I remember thinking that way. I don't think I was disappointed when I got this answer.
So speaking about when Mashiach is coming, the whole experience, Chavzai Nader, Gimel Tammuz, which obviously for every chassid till today is we're not over it. Like you said, it's a cheshach kafel and mechupel. But did you feel did you feel begashmius like different than, I don't know, your friends or other people?
How could I know what my friends felt like?
So don't talk about your friends. Talk about yourself.
Is it going to help anyone to talk about it? What I felt at the time?
What you feel now?
What I feel now is going to help anyone. In a very Gashmizdika sense, it was much, much more difficult for me than after my father passed away. Because the Pale, very shortly after my father passed, by the time you know what hit you, the Rebbe was already literally there to hold us, to catch us. And it was very, after Chavzayinod, after Gimel, it was a very big roller coaster. And I was really, it affected a lot of things. It affected my learning. I mean, as a kid in Cheder, even I'm saying it affected my grades. It affected my behavior. It was like a little wacky for a long time. Maybe it still is. Some people will say. After after Gimel Tammuz, and we started going to the Oyel on a very regular basis, and from the beginning, when the Rebbe says the Lashon, I didn't see the Lashon until probably many years later. But there's the Lashon that the Rebbe says that when you go to the Oyel, you have to be aware of the fact as though is what's the attitude and what's the approach and what's the thought process, and I guess also what's the hachana of going into the Oyel. Is the afternoon you're going to the Rebbe. This is the Rebbe. You're going to the Rebbe. Going to the Oyel means you're going to the Rebbe. So I didn't know that sentence from Shlach Tov Shin Yud. But I was a young kid. I was not even bar mitzvah yet. I was almost bar mitzvah. But that I knew and I felt from the beginning. And the truth is, that's how I go through my days and my weeks and my months and my years. Is either when I go to the Rebbe or if I write to the Rebbe. That's my lifeline. That's how for me, if I would have the ability, I would every week or 2 or 3, I would fly to the Oyel. I would spend 10 minutes by the Oyel and I would go back home. Everything on top of that is just icing on the cake. I don't want to say icing because saying everything more than that is beautiful. But just to be there, to go into the Oyel or to stand right outside the Oyel, then I could continue moving on with my life. So that's what gives me my stability. I don't know what other people do or don't feel, so I can't answer that part. But I don't know if it, I think that we have to, if a bacher would appreciate what he has when he goes to the Oyel. My default line is bacher, but the same thing would apply to a younger man, and the same thing would apply to the Neshei B'nois Chabad, and really Neshei B'nois Yisrael, not only Chabad. But for the most part, I deal with the bachrim, so that's my natural lashon. But if we would appreciate what we have when we go to the Oyel, and we would allow ourselves to appreciate it, then we wouldn't have this disappointment. I think a lot of times we go to the Oyel and we have a certain expectation that we're going to feel this, and we're going to feel that, we're going to become tzaddikim, and then we go in. And for the most part, very often, it doesn't necessarily happen. Now, you hear stories from people that you brought from Chabad house or from Iftzayim. They come to the Oyel and we come in and we come out, and sometimes it's really noida kibal kirbeno. So that could be a different conversation of why it's like that. But if we would just have this, what the Rebbe says in the Sicha, Shlach Tov Shin Yud. So if you would just think for 2 minutes, I just had the opportunity to go into the Rebbe. I just had an opportunity to give the Rebbe a letter or a pan. I don't know what you would feel, but it would be meaningful. You would appreciate it. It would be special. But we can't allow ourselves to appreciate that because we have this idea in our mind that we're supposed to chap malachim. and we didn't have malachim, so then something must be wrong, and something is wrong with us, and punkt verkehrt. If we allow ourselves to appreciate what is, then maybe we could experience it in a different way. And maybe we could experience it in a more real way. Wir gehen rein zum Rebbe. Azay sagt der Rebbe. And the Rebbe doesn't normally say it as a fact. The Rebbe says it as something that we need to know. Before you walk into the oil, you need to stop, even if you go 1,000 times. Maybe first if you go 1,000 times. You need to stop. And you need to think. Ich gehe jetzt rein zum Rebbe. And then you walk in. You don't have to cry. You don't have to get emotional. You don't have to get yourself all worked up. Just simple. If you would know that you have the ability right now to walk by the Rebbe's room, and the Rebbe is going to be in the room, but the door is going to be closed, how would you feel standing right outside the door? Even if you're not able to see the Rebbe, which I'm not saying is, not a big deal at all. So you would feel it's a whole different Indian. The Rebbe says that that's what it means when you go into the oil. Allow yourself to appreciate that. Allow yourself to recognize that.
Okay. So I understand that you are going to the Rebbe for Shabbos, this Shabbos, and so am I. So,
Okay.
as beim Rebbe.
As Hashem und man soll sich sehen mit dem Rebbe.
Amen.
Before Shabbos. Should I show you the battle that I spoke about before in the story?
Yeah, sure.
I'll show you the battle, and then I'll show you two things that are very special. So one is the battle from the Mashpia. This is the battle that I got from the Rebbe by that time. I got two battles, but this is the first battle. This is the battle from Dalid Elul Tafshin Nun for the farbrengen that we made for the Sima Kaddish for my father. And I'll show you another thing, and that is I took over the years like 2 or 3 napkins that the Rebbe used from the farbrengen. And this is one of those napkins. I actually cut it into 4 pieces. I gave, for my 4 siblings, my 3 siblings, so we each have one piece of it, even though I was the one who took it off the table. And it's written down, it's from the farbrengen of Simchas Torah, Tafshin Nun Beis. The Rebbe used this napkin. You can actually see where the Rebbe used it. So that's the Gilui for tonight. If you come to Shir Aleph in Detroit, you get to see all the stuff that I have.
There's more.
Yeah, of course there's more. There's always more.
So how come when I was with you and you were in the Zal, you didn't show it to us? I guess we didn't have a kiddush pnimi.
We didn't get it. Now I show every year to all my bachim. We make a farbrengen and I bring out all the inyanim. Now I have a Chavos from the Rebbe and Hadassim from the whatever different things. The Iker is as wir sollen leben. The Iker is that we should live as Chassidim of the Rebbe. The Rebbe should literally impact the way we live in the most simple, basic way, in the thousands of choices we make every day. And take it from Yad Mamish, man soll sicher sein, sich sein mit dem Rebbe beinei Wasser. Nein.
Amen. Yeshakar, Rabbi Scharf.